Hey guys, AB here from B&H, and today we're going to talk about EQing. Specifically, we'll look at how to use a parametric EQ to shape your sound. I appreciate your taking the time to watch the video, and please don't forget to subscribe. Alright, back to EQing. In my last video, I mentioned that the parametric EQ is really the most powerful and customizable EQ tool out there. And luckily for us, most DAWs feature a proprietary parametric EQ, though you could always use a third-party version of your choice. As a quick recap, a parametric EQ gives you a lot more flexibility to tailor the sound to your liking, because in addition to giving you the option of 1, choosing a specific frequency, and 2, gaining that frequency, also known as boosting or cutting, you can 3, control the width or the Q of that boost or cut. Also, most decent parametric EQs will have at least 4 or 5 frequency bands with which to work. In the case of a 5-band parametric EQ, for example, that would be low, low-mid, mid, high-mid, and high frequencies. For simplicity's sake, I've opened a project in Pro Tools, which has one vocal track on it. I will now insert FabFilter's Pro Q2, and we can see right away that it's a parametric EQ. We know it's parametric because of the variables I mentioned before: frequency, gain, and Q. First, we'll play the track a couple times as is, without engaging the EQ, just so we familiarize ourselves with the sound. This is an important step, because we often get anxious to start processing right away when we have all these tools at our disposal, when what we should really do is allow our ears to absorb the content we're working on before we start going crazy with surgical plugins.
This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No.
Overall, I like the voice, and it sounds pretty good, but I can hear right away that there are certain frequencies that may be problematic. Some of this comes with experience, but what I'm listening for is any kind of boxiness in the voice, or frequencies that are nasally, harsh, or annoying. Before I attack those specific areas, one of the first things I do when EQing is to engage a high-pass filter, also known as a low-cut filter. In many cases, recorded vocal tracks have some low-end frequencies that are just not needed, and they can often cloud a mix. Mics tend to pick up a lot of ambient room sound and low frequencies, so cutting out what you don't need can really go a long way to ensuring a nice, final product. The trick with the high-pass filter is to get rid of the unwanted rumble without affecting the natural sound of the voice. I recommend setting your filter with a gentle slope and moving it up until you hear it begin to change the vocal quality. That could be anywhere from 85 to 120 Hz or so. Once you hear a difference in sound, back off a little bit until the voice sounds natural again. This is a good place to start.
This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No. This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No. This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No. This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No.
Now we're ready to address the frequencies I don't like, which I intend to remove, or cut. You'll want to use a narrow Q when cutting frequencies, because if your cut is too broad in width, you will end up removing some of the good stuff. First, I boost the EQ so I can hear the frequencies I want to get rid of. Then I'll cut those frequencies out. In this example, I hear a nasally sound around 800 Hz, so I will reduce that frequency at about -4.5 dB, just enough to get rid of the boxy sound. There's also a slight amount of boxiness at 347 Hz, so I'll dip that out a bit too. Remember, some of this is also a matter of taste, so make sure you're also considering the final sound you're going for.
This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No. This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No. Any good for you or me. No. This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No. This is never gonna be any good for you or me.
Let's now sweep through the frequencies and boost areas that we want to highlight. A general rule when boosting is to use a broader cue, which will affect a bit more of the area you're trying to accentuate. Too narrow a boost tends to pinpoint limited frequencies. So in this particular vocal, I'd like to add some of the singer's voice that makes her very distinct. I'm going to sweep with a mid-sized band between 2 and 8K, looking for a natural tone that's not too sibilant.
This is never gonna be any good for you or me. No, this is never gonna be any good for you or me. No, this is never gonna be any good for you or me. No, this is never gonna be any good for you or me. No.
Here we go. That's subtle, but it sounds nice right there. Also, if we want to add some of that air that gives the vocal a bit more of that pop record sensibility, we could use a high shelf EQ, typically above 12K, to give some sheen to the voice.
Any good for you or me? No, this is never gonna be any good for you or me. No, this is never gonna be any good for you or me. No.
Okay, I like the way that sounds. Again, there's no hard rule per se, just listen to your ears. A few things to remember when EQing. 1. Don't EQ strictly in isolation. Using a parametric EQ works great for vocals or any other audio in your projects. However, keep in mind that if you're working on something that has multiple tracks of audio, you don't want to EQ each track strictly in isolation. You have to keep the overall product in mind. And if you deal with each track individually, you may find that at the end, they don't all mesh together very well. So, as you start making EQ changes to a track, make sure you go back and forth between soloing it and playing it with other tracks in the mix. You may also find that you have to EQ a track a bit differently than you'd have liked in order to make it work in harmony with another track, and that's fine. Since the lead vocal is arguably the most important track in the song though, I suggest getting that to sound as good as possible and then EQ the other tracks around it. Number 2, these techniques work on hardware EQs. If you're not working in the box and you're using a mixing console or hardware EQ, the same techniques apply. Most professional consoles or standalone channel strips have parametric EQs, so you'll be able to boost, cut, and dial in the cue to achieve the same results. In fact, I think that using a hardware mixer is sometimes advantageous because you don't have a computer monitor with lots of colors and visuals to distract you. You can rely mostly on your ears, which is what making music is all about. And 3, mind your levels. Just as you would with the output level of a mix, make sure that you monitor the individual levels of the audio you're EQing. If, for example, you've done some EQ boosting on a track, that means you've increased that track's output. To prevent overall level clipping, utilize the EQ's output gain to reduce the level by the amount you've boosted, which will maintain a proper gain stage across the mix. The same technique applies to other plugins that can affect a track's output. That does it for how to use a parametric EQ to sweeten your sound. I hope you found this video useful, and for more pro audio tips, make sure to check out BHPhoto.com. This is AB, and I'll see you next time.